right hand side, you may notice a pyramid building. It is called Alies Forces, and it's an institute where we on the island would go to learn how to speak fluent French. Coming up onto the right, of course, Port Castries once again. Port Castries has won many awards for being the most efficient and most busiest port in the Eastern Caribbean. And of course, you see you're accompanied by the Musica. Musica is a variety of languages: Germans, Italian, Spanish, and different on this. As we drive along, we are now in Castries, the capital of St. Lucia. Castries, like most of the places on the island, they are French. It is French name because the French were the first set of settlers to colonize and name the island. And Castries was named after a French minister called La Marquis de Castries. Now, as we are in the capital, if you focus coming up onto the left, our local Castries market, our straw market actually this is, where you can purchase anything that is made out of straw. Hats, mats, baskets, brooms. To the back, well, to the front as well, fruits, vegetables, herbs, spices can be purchased. And coming up onto the left once again is the Castries Craft Market. So if you're interested in local crafts done by the craftsmen on the island, you could go right there to take a look. To the right hand side, you have the Vendors Arcade, and their t-shirts, souvenirs could be purchased to take back home. Castries has suffered 4 fires. The most recent fire was in 1948, where 3/4 of the city was burnt down. Before, Castries was built all in wood, and it is rumor, and we did not have electricity. We used candle lights and kerosene lamps. So it is rumor that the candle was left lit in a tailor shop, and since the whole place was built in wood, the fire spread very quickly. So it left about 2,000 persons homeless. The government at the time built the Castries Development Complex for those persons, which are apartment buildings we'll be bypassing shortly. We refer to them as the CDC apartments, and they are coming up onto the left. How one would travel on the island would be via minibus, like you see over here to the right and coming up onto the left. This particular bus stop would be called the Ostrov bus stop. So you know, if you're living as far as Ostrov, you come here to take your bus to go back home. If you're at home and you want to come into Castries, you stand by the road and the bus collects you, brings you into Castries. The further you go, the more you pay. On to the right, the back of the House of Parliament. To the right, our Constitution Park. To the right, to the top of the building is our Supreme Court or High Court. And to the bottom, one can get married to the front, and if they choose to get divorced, they do so to the back. No trouble at all. We have, like I told you, 70% of the St. Lucians are Roman Catholics, so you have other denominations, such as Pentecostals, Jehovah's Witnesses, Muslims, Baptists, Rastafarians, Anglicans, Methodists, and a few more I can't remember right about now. But 70% Roman Catholic. And coming up to the left-hand side, this very big building, it's 116 years old. It's the largest cathedral church on the island. It is called the Cathedral of the Immaculate Conception. It can comfortably seat 2,800 persons in one service. On to the left, once again you notice this tree, which is over 400 years old. It is the salmon tree, more popularly known as the Massab tree. It is found inside of the Derek Walcott Square. Derek Walcott happens to be one of our Nobel Prize winners on the island. He won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1992. Also inside of the square you may notice that white structure. It is called the cenotaph. It was built in memories of the soldiers who fought World War I as well as World War II. On to the left again, our central library. We are presently on Bridge Street, the busiest street in the capital. It has 3 banks, 2 telephone companies, a general post office. Onto the right hand side, Dublay's Bottling Factory, our manufacturers of Coca-Cola, Sprite and other sodas on the island. And to the left is the St. Lucia the Central Police Station. This office is our Chief of Police. As we go up, you'd notice while driving through, of course, St. Lucia is very mountainous, our highest point being over 3,000 feet above sea level. You may also notice deep drains to the left and right hand side of the road, and this caters for St. Lucia's annual rainfall. When we're passing through our rainforest area, I'll be telling you a bit more about our climate. Short space of time, we're already this high, and you can see the Carnival Liberty right now. Also from here, if you look beyond the horizon, you'd be able to see an outline of an island. You see that? This is Martinique. Martinique is 21 miles north of St. Lucia. It takes an hour and a half by boat to get there and about 10 minutes by plane. You'd also notice a runway, and this would be the George F.L. Charles Airport. This caters for island hopping, regional flights. However, our larger airport, which caters for the jets, the international flights, would be to the south of the island, and it is called the Euronora Airport. It caters for airlines like American Airways, JetBlue, British Virgin Atlantic, British Airways, Air Canada, Air France, and so forth. the right, ladies and gentlemen, is the only house on the island to wear the crown, and that's way to the top of the building. It's also home to our Governor General. Her name is Dame Lucia. She was selected by our Prime Minister, however appointed by the Queen. St. Lucia is independence. We gained our independence on the 22nd of February 1979. But however, we still remain a part of the Commonwealth, which means the Queen is head of state. On the island also we have two main political parties, the United Workers' Party and the St. Lucia Labour Party. At present, the St. Lucia Labour Party is in power, and our Prime Minister's name is Dr. Kenny Anthony. We have elections, general elections, every 5 years on the island. If you see those little fruits on the trees as we are passing about, this is because we're in mango season. And we have over 40 types of mangoes. So you can imagine. Mango season extends for 4 months out of the year. If you look to the far right, you notice the Buckeye Storage Facility compound and also the Cul-de-sac Harbor, which happens to be the 7th deepest water in the Western Hemisphere with a depth of over 100 feet. Now, at the Buckeye Storage Facility compound, you notice those green tanks to the back, and in each tank holds approximately 750,000 barrels of crude oil. Crude oil from all over the world is brought to St. Lucia and stored there until it is brought over to the US, where it is refined into the various petroleum products and sold all over the world. However, we on the island receive our petroleum from Venezuela and Trinidad. On the island. St. Lucia was named after a patron saint of light called Lucia. St. Lucia was first discovered by a Spanish sailor called Juan de la Costa and then placed in the Spanish records in 1502. St. Lucia then exchanged hands 14 times. 7 times British owned, 7 times French owned. This went on for over 150 years until the year 1840, where the French handed St. Lucia over to Britain in the Treaty of Paris. And I told you ever since then, we've gained our independence. The island would measure 238 square miles, 27 miles long and 14 miles to its widest point, with a population of approximately 182,000. 75,000 reside in the capital and its surroundings. The nearest neighboring island I told you was Martinique. There's also St. Vincent, which is 26 miles south of St. Lucia, and Barbados, which is 100 miles west of the island. The island is also surrounded by 2 bodies of water. On the east coast, when you're driving along, you'd notice the Atlantic Ocean. However, today we'll be doing the west coast, so you'd notice the Caribbean Sea, which is much calmer and warmer than the Atlantic side. Our official language here since 1842, English. But in St. Lucia we are bilingual, as we speak French Creole, what some would refer to, well, what the natives refer to as patois. This patois is a mixture of African sounds, French vocabulary, a little Spanish grammar, intermingled with English. Before we end the tour, I'll be going into French Creole with you and teaching you, well, telling you 1 or 2 words in the language. Cool? Alright, good. We have now arrived in an area which is called cul-de-sac. So this is the front of the Buckeye Storage Facility compound. What I showed you were the green tanks. This is way to the back. So if I pass in the front of it right now. To the right hand side would be St. Lucia's only power company, Lucia. We use 220 volts of electricity at home. Our power source is diesel operated. To get 110, we would need a transformer. We also only have 1 water company here, which is called Wasco. Water comes from the mountains into the reservoir, pumped into Wasco. Wasco purifies the water and we get drinking tap water at home. Both water and electricity is found all throughout the island. Okay. If you focus your attention to the far left, you'd notice a flattened area. And this would be the Roseau Valley banana plantation, over 1,000 acres of bananas. Also, the lady has some dolls selling. When the doll doesn't have any hair, is covered, that's a flowered part, she's single. However, when she has our national wedding madras with earrings and hair, she is married. So on one side she's single, and the next she is married. These are our traditional Creole dolls on the island.
The same money Dominican using, same pencil.
And dollars also, yeah? Здесь вообще было спасибо. Саша, я здесь сижу вообще. Я прям сам. Не знаешь, страшно сидеть. Надо быть монеткой. Сам получить.
Before we had any banana plantations here, they were all sugarcane fields. St. Lucia survived on sugarcane for over 200 years until the British discovered sugar beets, which is a root under the ground. Now that brought the price of sugar down. So in the 1960s, we went into bananas. Bananas more economical in that it is a year-round agricultural crop, unlike sugarcane, which was only a seasonal crop. I'll be explaining that to you as we pass through the plantation, so you get a better idea of what I was talking about, okay? Coming up onto the hillside there, you have the Lacwa Mengo Combined School. Yes, like I told you, today is the last day of school. When children attend school in St. Lucia, they wear uniforms. They wear uniforms up till college. Uniforms are given to help parents send the children to school year-round. It is also given as a form of identification. So if they get into trouble, one knows where to go. However, the most important reason is to keep the child's mind off clothes and on their books. And here it works very well.
Sorry?
Yeah.
Я хочу жить.
Yeah. Yeah. On the bridge you see that? That's now it.
Yeah. No, wait, that's right.
Если знаешь, как классно сидеть.